The asylum program is a scam. Some of the roughest people you've ever seen. People that look like they should be fighting for the UFC.
Welcome back. Tonight, one of the framers of the president's immigration policy at the southern border is leaving. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen has resigned. Joining me now, Vice-ranking Republican on the House Appropriations Committee, Tom Cole, and Democratic Congresswoman Nanette Barragán of California. She is a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Thank you both very much for being here this evening and for being willing to play bipartisan at the table. Congressman Cole, first to you. What does this say to you about how the president's policies on immigration are evolving? We know, we're reporting here at NBC News, that the abrupt pulling of the president's nominee to head ICE was part of this whole saga because the president said he wanted to be tougher than he thought that this Mr. Vitiello could be. I mean, what does this say about the direction that we're heading in?
Well, I think it says there's a lot of frustration at the White House, first and foremost. That's what personnel changes are usually all about. And we've seen threatened policy changes over the last week, close down the border, cut aid to some of the Central American countries that are the sources of the migration. So I think this is, frankly, an effort to shake things up, bring in a new team, and see if he can get some different results. And I think that's well within the president's prerogative, but I think this is a really complex and challenging problem that's going to be hard to master. Do
you think cutting aid to those countries from which many of these immigrants are fleeing, deadly violence, is that a smart policy? No,
I don't think it is, and I don't think it was really meant to happen. I think instead the president's just trying to get the attention of people down there. We're clearly not getting the cooperation from those governments that we ought to be getting. We are providing a lot of money. Frankly, it has made the situation some ways better over the last several years. And I think the same thing's true with Mexico. The closure of the border had more to do with, hey, we need you to step up and do more than you're doing, than it did to actually, shut down a border that would have done a lot of economic damage on both sides of that border.
Congresswoman, do you think there is an escalation in the, sheer logistical challenge of handling all of the asylum seekers coming into our country?
Well, I think part of this is caused by the president and what he's doing. When you stop people at the ports of entry from coming in through the ports of entry, then you're going to have more people coming in between the ports, which is what we're seeing happening now. I was glad to hear my colleague say that he agreed on not cutting the aid to the Northern Triangle, because I think that is super key that we keep the funding there, or it's only going to get worse. I was just at the border this weekend, and I'm hoping that the new acting Secretary will do something about what's happening on the humanitarian front down there.
What did you see at the border?
Well, frankly, when you saw the photos of all of the families, the women, the children underneath the bridge that there was outrage over, those families have merely been transported to another area. Instead of having one tent, now they have 3 tents. But it's not making the situation better. I saw a 4-month, 5-month-old outside living in the outdoors under a tent, only Mylar blankets, hard floor, with the same clothes for 5 days. Mothers crying out at us, mobbing us, asking for help. And I'm hoping that the new acting secretary is going to see this and do something more humane about it.
What's the solution?
Well, Congress, on a bipartisan basis, appropriated $415 million in February. And the question is, have they received the money? Are they using that money? Because they need to use that money for the humanitarian relief before another child dies.
Congressman, do you agree with that?
Well, I certainly agree about using the money wisely, but look, there's a lot more here than that, and a lot of this is dysfunction on Capitol Hill, which is not the president's fault. Look, I think the Flores decision, which the Obama administration tried to change, as well as the Trump,
let's just remind our viewers what the Flores decision was.
Essentially, it limits the amount of time you can hold a child that's in the company, presumably of a parent or an adult, to basically 20 days, a little less than that in DHS handling. That needs to be looked at. And frankly, we need to look at the policy of being able to return people rapidly. We've got massive cartel involvement in this now. It's big business. We've got governments that are almost silent partners in allowing it to happen up to our borders.
So does that mean that you're advocating for changing our asylum laws?
Yeah, frankly, I think we need to relook at them. I don't think everybody here is coming as coming out of fear. I think most of this is economically driven, and most of it, frankly, has been driven because people see an opportunity. Cartels see an opportunity to both make money and move a lot of people this way. So there does have to be more. Look, when you're getting 4,000 people a day that you're apprehending, 100,000 a month, that's a crisis situation, and simply more money with the same laws and no change in the policies isn't going to make a lot of difference.
Well, I would say, you know, the Flores decision was put in there to protect children and make sure they were treated properly and they were not detained. The trauma that children face when they are detained and the conditions under which they're detained are not good for them mentally. So I completely disagree on that front. And let's not forget about the chaos in the Department of Homeland Security. How can they run anything? They've got nobody in charge there. The #1 person left today. The #3 person left 2 weeks ago. Vitello got pulled out. There's nobody in charge there. Who's running it out there?
Well, I think
so supposedly you're in a crisis and you got nobody running it.
A little bit less about the trauma at the border, more about the trauma on the journey. I mean, these children have moved 1,000 miles in terrible conditions when they're subject to exploitation. Frankly, the conditions they get when they're here, and they're not adequate at all, I agree with you on that, are better than what they've had moving across that border. You've got to start to do something to remove the magnet that's bringing them on a very dangerous journey.
Do you think, Congressman, that the president's rhetoric is inflaming this problem? And do you think he should cool it ahead of the campaign?
Well, define what, if you mean the problem, do I think the president's rhetoric has much to do with the people coming here? No. Matter of fact, if anything, that would make you less inclined to come. Clearly, the opportunity to come to the country and to stay here and overwhelm the system is what's bringing people up here, not the president one way or the other. I think his frustration is we don't seem to be able to come up with a policy in Congress. We don't seem to have the resources. We don't seem to be able to deal with the problem. And I think that's why he's shaking things up.
Congressman Tom Cole, thank you very much. Congresswoman Nanette Berrigan, thank you so much for being here as well. Just ahead,